47 seconds. The silence in that hearing room lasted exactly 47 seconds. And if you think that does not sound like a long time, try sitting in a chair, under oath, with 200 cameras pointed at your face, while a United States Senator holds up a printed screenshot of your own private photograph and asks you a question you cannot answer. 47 seconds. That is how long Kash Patel of the most powerful law enforcement agency on earth sat frozen, motionless, his lips slightly parted, his eyes locked on a document he clearly wished did not exist. No cough, no adjustment of the microphone, no whispered consultation with counsel, just silence, the kind of silence that does not fill a room, the kind that empties it. But before we get to that moment, you need to understand how we got here. Because this was not an ambush. This was not a surprise attack born out of political theater or partisan grandstanding. This was a surgical, methodical, layer-by-layer demolition of a man who believed he was untouchable. And Adam Schiff, who did it, had been preparing for weeks, assembling documents, cross-referencing timelines, and building a case the way a federal prosecutor builds a case before a grand jury. In the weeks leading up to this hearing, a foreign-linked hacking group with ties to a hostile nation-state announced that it had successfully breached Kash Patel's personal email account. Not his government email. Not his encrypted agency communications. His personal account. The one he used for family photographs, travel itineraries, apartment inquiries, and private correspondence dating back more than a decade. The hackers published over 300 emails and multiple personal photographs on an open website, accompanied by a taunting message that said the man who once saw his name displayed with pride on the walls of his own headquarters would now find his name among the list of successfully hacked victims. The agency confirmed the breach, calling the stolen information historical in nature, and insisting that no government data had been compromised. For a few days, it seemed like the story might fade. It seemed like the news cycle would absorb it and move on, the way it absorbs everything eventually. Adam Schiff knew it would not fade. He understood something most people missed in those first 48 hours of breathless cable news coverage. The breach itself was not the story. The story was what the breach revealed about Kash Patel's judgment, his security posture, his honesty before Congress, and the institutional failure that allowed the head of the nation's premier counterintelligence agency to be compromised by the very adversary he was supposed to defend against. When Kash Patel took his seat in that wood-paneled hearing room and offered his standard opening pleasantries, he had no idea what was coming. He had prepared for questions about the budget, about ongoing investigations, about the usual partisan exchanges. What he had not prepared for was a prosecutor. Adam Schiff began quietly. The first question was procedural. When were you first informed that your personal communications had been targeted by a foreign intelligence service? Kash Patel gave a careful answer. He said he had been notified in late 2024. Before his confirmation, that he had been the subject of a foreign cyber operation. He said the appropriate authorities had been consulted. Adam Schiff nodded, wrote something on a notepad, and asked a second question that shifted the temperature in the room by several degrees. After you were informed that a hostile foreign intelligence service had accessed your personal communications, did you continue to use that same personal email account? Kash Patel paused. 2 seconds. In a hearing room, 2 seconds is a canyon. He said he could not discuss the specifics of his personal cybersecurity arrangements in an open setting. Adam Schiff tilted his head and said, I am not asking about classified systems. I am asking about a commercial email service. Did you continue to use it, yes or no? The room shifted. Everyone understood this was not going to be a routine hearing. Kash Patel said he would need to consult with counsel. Adam Schiff said, You are under oath, and I am asking a simple factual question. Did you continue to use the account after being informed it was compromised? Kash Patel swallowed visibly. He said, To the best of my recollection, the account was secured in coordination with relevant authorities. Adam Schiff responded immediately. That was not my question. And I will note for the record that you have now been given 3 opportunities to answer a yes or no question and have declined each time. This is where Adam Schiff shifted from questioner to prosecutor. He reached into a manila folder, pulled out a single sheet of paper, and held it up for the cameras. He said, I am entering into the record a travel confirmation email sent from your personal account in 2019. This email contains your full legal name, your personal phone number, your loyalty program account number, and the details of an international flight. If a hostile foreign government had access to this email, what counterintelligence risk assessment did your agency make about your continued use of this account? Kash Patel sat very still. He looked at the paper. He looked at his counsel. He looked back at Adam Schiff. And then he said something that would be replayed on every broadcast for the next 72 hours. He said, Senator, I take cybersecurity very seriously. Adam Schiff did not blink. He simply said, I did not ask whether you take it seriously. I asked what assessment was made. And then he waited. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Kash Patel shifted in his chair, adjusted his glasses, moved a piece of paper from one side of his desk to the other. 20 seconds. 25. The sound of 200 people holding their breath. At 31 seconds, Kash Patel said, I am not in a position to discuss specific threat assessments in this setting. Adam Schiff said, then let me help you. He pulled out a second document. He said, I am entering into the record a summary of this hacking group's known operations over the past 18 months. This group, which your own agency has linked to a foreign intelligence ministry, has claimed responsibility for a destructive cyber attack against a major American medical technology company that wiped thousands of employee devices. The publication of personal information of nearly 200 Allied military personnel. The sending of death threats to journalists and dissidents on American soil. And now, the breach of the personal email of Kash Patel of the agency that is supposed to be protecting this country from exactly these attacks. He paused. He let the list hang in the air like smoke from a fired gun. Then he said, My question is not whether you take cybersecurity seriously. My question is whether the American people should take you seriously. A low murmur rose from the gallery. The committee chair tapped his gavel once. Kash Patel's composure was visibly thinner. He said, Senator, the breach involved historical information. No government systems were compromised. Adam Schiff nodded and said, I hear you. Now let me ask you about the photographs. Adam Schiff pulled out a printed image and held it up. He said, among the materials published by this hacking group were personal photographs of you taken during what appears to be an international trip. You are seen in a foreign capital, posing with a luxury automobile, in leisure settings. These photographs were stored in the compromised account. When you were told your account had been accessed, were you informed that personal photographs were among the stolen materials? Kash Patel said, I was given a general briefing on the nature of the accessed information. Adam Schiff said, were photographs specifically mentioned? Kash Patel said, I would have to review my notes. Adam Schiff said, you are Kash Patel of the most important law enforcement agency in this country, and you are telling me you do not remember whether you were told a foreign government had your personal photographs? 11 seconds of silence. A bead of moisture formed at Kash Patel's hairline. Not quite sweat, but the beginning of it. The body responding to a truth the mouth refused to speak. He said, Senator, I want to give you an accurate answer rather than speculate. Adam Schiff said, I will move on. But I want the record to reflect that Kash Patel cannot confirm or deny whether he was informed that a hostile foreign government possessed his personal photographs. Let the American people draw their own conclusions. Adam Schiff then shifted to the agency's institutional response. He asked when the Cyber Division was first tasked with investigating the hacking group. How many agents were assigned? Whether arrests had been made. To each question, Kash Patel gave a version of the same answer. He could not discuss ongoing operations. And to each non-answer, Adam Schiff responded with the same measured follow-up. I understand. Let me rephrase. Then he asked the same question differently, boxing Kash Patel into a smaller and smaller space. Every question was designed not to extract information but to demonstrate its absence. To show the American people, in real time, that the person sitting in that chair could not or would not account for the most basic facts of a breach that bore his own name. At the 43-minute mark, Adam Schiff removed his glasses and spoke quietly. he said. Last week, your agency seized several websites operated by this hacking group. You personally stated that your agency would hunt down every actor behind these cowardly attacks and bring the full force of American law enforcement down on them. Strong words. But within 72 hours of that statement, the same group published your personal emails, your photographs, and your documents on the open internet. They did not hack a classified system. They hacked you. Personally. The man who promised to bring the full force of American law enforcement could not protect his own inbox. The room was completely silent. Kash Patel stared straight ahead, hands flat on the table, fingers not moving, eyes not blinking. Schiff continued. He said, I am not blaming you for being hacked. Foreign intelligence services target officials every day. What I am questioning is judgment. You were told in 2024 that your communications were compromised. You accepted the most sensitive law enforcement position in the country knowing a hostile government had accessed your private life. And when that government made your private life public, your agency called it historical and moved on. That is not cybersecurity. That is damage control. And the American people deserve to know the difference. Kash Patel's counsel placed a hand on his arm and whispered something. Kash Patel nodded almost imperceptibly and said, Senator, I want to assure this committee that the security of this agency remains my highest priority. Schiff said, That is the fourth time today you have told me what your priorities are. I have been asking what your actions were. Those are not the same thing. And that was when the 47 seconds happened. Schiff asked his final question. Given everything we have discussed, given that a hostile foreign government breached your personal email, published your photographs, and taunted your agency within days of your attempt to shut them down, do you believe you are the right person to lead this agency's cybersecurity and counterintelligence mission? Yes or no? 47 seconds. The camera never cut away. Kash Patel's eyes moved once to the left, once to the right, then fixed on some invisible point in the middle distance. His jaw was clenched. His hands, still flat on the table, had turned pale at the knuckles. One staffer later told a reporter that you could hear the ventilation system humming. The mechanical breath of the building was the loudest sound in a room of 200 people. At 47 seconds, Kash Patel spoke. Yes. One word. Schiff nodded and said, Let the record show that the witness required 47 seconds to answer that question. Then he gathered his papers, placed them into his folder, and said, I yield back my time. The hearing continued. Other members asked questions. Some supportive, some critical. But none of it mattered. The hearing was over the moment those 47 seconds ended. Everything after was epilogue. Here is what most people missed. This was not about an email hack or old photographs. This was about a question that sits at the heart of every democratic institution. Who watches the watchers? Kash Patel sits atop an agency with the power to surveil, investigate, and prosecute. That power rests on a single fragile foundation. Trust. The public trusts that leaders are competent, that they protect not just national secrets, but their own operational security, that when they promise to hunt down an adversary, they can deliver. What this hearing revealed, in 47 seconds of silence, was a crack in that foundation. The hackers wanted attention. They got it. They wanted to embarrass the agency. They succeeded. But the deeper damage was done in that hearing room, under oath, when the person charged with defending the nation against cyber threats could not explain how his own email was compromised, could not confirm whether he knew his photographs were stolen, could not account for the gap between his public promises and his private vulnerability. The hackers stole emails. The hearing revealed the distance between the image of strength and the reality of exposure. As you watch those 47 seconds, pay attention to something most commentators missed. Watch Kash Patel's hands. At the start, they are flat on the table. Controlled. But around the 20-second mark, his right thumb begins pressing into the surface. A tiny movement. Almost invisible. The unconscious application of pressure when the conscious mind has run out of moves. Poker players call it a tell. Psychologists call it a self-soothing mechanism. In that hearing room, it was the most honest thing Kash Patel said all day. This is how institutions fracture. Not with a dramatic explosion. Not with a single whistleblower that brings everything crashing down overnight. They fracture in the quiet moments when the people who run them cannot answer simple questions. When the gap between what they say and what they do becomes visible to the naked eye. When the watchers themselves turn out to be unwatched. And when a room full of people sits in silence for 47 seconds, waiting for an answer, wondering whether the answer, when it finally comes, is enough. It was one word. Yes. But the silence before it said everything.